Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC Fight Night on ESPN, Cejudo versus Dillashaw. So without further ado, let's get to our first prelim prediction of the night. In our first fight on the card, we have in the welterweight division, Randy Brown versus Chance Rencountree. And I'm not sure that's how you say his name, but that's what I'm going to go with and assume that's how it sounds and it's pronounced and stuff. But anywho, you got Randy Brown versus Chance Rencountree. Chance Rencountree, I believe, debuted in his last fight against Belal Muhammad. It was like a short-notice fight. But judging from that fight, both Randy Brown and Rencountree fought Muhammad. Both lost. But Rencountree got thoroughly dominated in every aspect of MMA. With Randy Brown, at least had a kind of like competitive fight. I think he outstruck Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad had to resort to wrestling and making the cage very small and grappling him, trying to clinch him up and take him down because of Randy Brown's striking. Whereas Chance Rencountree got dominated everywhere. I think Rencountree, I didn't really see anything too great about him or anything real good about him, except he was tough and at least game on short notice. But other than that, nothing really promising about him, but pretty much was just getting dominated in that fight. I think maybe if he can mix in some grappling, anybody can have success against Randy Brown, but I think Randy Brown has been working to prove that grappling. And yes, I think Nico Price was his last fight, and he got knocked out brutally in that weird fashion, but I think he was turning the course of that fight around. His grappling was looking good, at least in the past couple fights. Not looking phenomenal, at least looking like he's getting better at defending, grappling, and, working with people who try to grapple him. He just got caught in a bad scramble position, and who gets knocked out from there anyway. Certainly doesn't look good to get knocked out, but I was saying at least he was turning the tide of that fight to his favor. Just got caught in a bad spot, got caught, but still got finished, still lost. But I think at least it was something showed from that fight, whereas Rencountree really ain't showed me nothing. So I'm going to lean heavily to Randy Brown. He's going to have a striking advantage. Grappling, I don't know where it's going to edge, but I think when you at least got one true advantage that's on paper already there, I'm just going to have to lean to there. I think Randy Brown's been in the UFC, has some wins in the UFC, experience, very talented fighter. And at any moment, he can really just start peaking and just all the stuff start coming together and working in fruition, and he just be looking like that next prospect, well, not even a prospect, but looking like a true contender eventually. But with Rencountree, I think he's just coming into the UFC, not a press debut. Like I said, Randy Brown actually has stuff that you could say at least lean towards him with his length, his striking, and stuff like that, and his experience. So I'm going to lean heavily to Randy Brown. I think he's going to get it done on the feet and probably stop him in the first round. So in this fight, I got Randy Brown via first round TKO. Now on to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, Belal Muhammad versus Jeff Neal. And Jeff Neal is coming off a great performance. I might forget who he just beat name, but I know exactly who he fought. It was a pretty tough opponent he fought. I think guy never really been finished. It was always aggressive coming at you. And Jeff Neal just took him out with that brutal head kick. After piecing him up with jabs, straights, and all types of beautiful striking, just took him out, I think, in the third or second round, but it was a very nice knockout. So Jeff Neal is riding a pretty good good streak right now, or at least a good momentum right now. Belal Muhammad's on some good momentum as well. I think on a 4-5 winning streak. I think maybe one or two finishes in that 4-5 winning streak. A lot of good names in that 4-5 winning streak. So both are coming with a lot of steam. I think Jeff Neal certainly looks like somebody who can contend in the division, and if he just keeps improving and working himself, he could definitely go. The sky's the limit for him. I think he has pretty good, well-rounded skill set. He got some pretty neat jiu-jitsu, good elbows in the clinch, good striking, good jabs and stuff. But I'm going to lean to Belal Muhammad in this one. I think Belal Muhammad has some good striking as well. He has experience, been champions in another league, been in the UFC, and actually for, the better competition in the UFC, and has fared pretty well against the better competition in the UFC. I'm not saying he's the cream of the crop at this division, but he's fought, just about that cream of the crop, and he's fared pretty well against that, about the cream of the crop. Whereas Jeff Neal is just kind of, just breaking into the UFC, and this is certainly a fight where he can say whether I'm going to kind of be middle of the pack for now, or I'm ready for, to jump and start fighting those people that's going to lead me to the cream of the crop. So this is a, kind of a pivotal matchup. I mean, for Belal Muhammad, if you get on a 5-5 winning streak, then they got to give you that top 10, those real top contenders after you're on a 5-5 winning streak. So for both of them, this win can push them to those, those higher ups in the division. But I'm still going to lean to Belal Muhammad. I think his experience will favor him a lot. He's not going to be like a fighter that's going to come and try to brawl or be in your face. He likes to fight at distance as well. He's good at controlling range. He also has that wrestling aspect. He's a little bit bigger than Jeff Neal, has maybe a little bit physically strong than Jeff Neal. And I think has a pretty good fight IQ in that, using what he has to win. And I know he'll be able to fight on the outside when he needs to, smother when he needs to, just to find ways to throw Jeff Neal's game off. And he's fought some pretty good strikers in his past couple matches, so that also will prepare him. And also he fought not just a strikers that brawl, he fought strikers that fight at distance, he fought strikers that fight at close. He's fought a lot of different styles of strikers, long, short, and stuff. So Jeff Neal really hasn't fought the same variety of strikers and doesn't have the same experience. So Belal Muhammad will certainly have a lot of experience in his favor, and he will know how to at least approach Jeff Neal, at least in the aspect of striking. As a matter of fact, like I said, Belal Muhammad's a full well-rounded fighter, so he'll be prepared for everything Jeff Neal brings. I'm sure Jeff Neal will be prepared for Belal Muhammad. But I said the experience and the past opponent just set him up perfectly to fight Jeff Neal, in my opinion. With Jeff Neal's experience, doesn't really, it's kind of still be a little bit of a new experience for him. I think Belal Muhammad's gonna take full advantage, knowing his style and knowing who he is. I think he's gonna kind of like grind out one of those close decisions that he just wins based on making the right moves at the right times, using that fight IQ to get clinches, to get takedowns, just to edge the round so he can get a good win over a nice prospect in Jeff Neal. So in this fight, I have Belal Muhammad via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the lightweight division, Dennis Bermudez versus Tejovan Edwards. Tejovan Edwards came to UFC off the Contender Series looking like a very nice prospect. I think he still is a very nice prospect, but I think he's still very green. And then Dennis Bermudez is coming up from the featherweight division to the lightweight division. It's kind of weird. Usually when a fighter has, such a good record or a good career at a lower weight class and they come up or they go down, they at least get an opponent that has a win or at least has some steam behind them, and not somebody that's 0-1 in the UFC. But I don't know. Dennis Bermudez was at one time, or for a good period of time, he was matter of fact, at one point, Dennis Bermudez had the longest winning streak in the featherweight division, was in the top 10 and all that stuff. Now he's coming up to the lightweight division, and he's getting a guy who's 0-1. You really don't see this too much. Maybe they're just giving him a gift they see because was on their Snapchat with their little cooking series and all this other stuff. Maybe UFC likes him, wants to stick him around. Or maybe they're saying they like both guys, and maybe at least this will give a chance for both of them to win. But now, just to get back to the actual fight and stuff, Dennis Bermudez is riding a couple, I think with like a 3 or 4 fight losing streak, not a winning streak, but definitely a losing streak. But all those fights were pretty close, except for the Chan Sung Jung fight, he got knocked out. But the other fights, they were very close, and he got some takedowns, got some. Yeah, it was like he might have had a lot of takedowns in the fight, but they were very close. Not too much success with takedowns, or he got some takedowns. Then with some striking portions where they were real close, but very close fights where it could have went either way, and he just happened to be on the losing end of these close fights. And some of these fights you could say like he clearly won, but they still gave the win to the other person. But Dennis Bermudez is still a very good fighter. I don't think he's necessarily lost his step. I just think the fights just haven't been going his way, or the cards haven't been going his way. Those could have been wins or losses. And even against the Chan Sung Jung fight, he looked pretty good. Just got caught, but Chan Sung Jung set him up for it, so it's not no lucky shot. He got caught, got set up, got caught. But all these fights, he's still Dennis Bermudez. He just has to find his stride again. That's about it. Tejovan Edwards, I think he's a very nice prospect. I think he's still he needs to improve. He needs to round out his skill set. He's explosive, athletic, great wrestler, good striking, but the technique needs to come in. I think Dennis Bermudez is actually a fighter he can kind of model his style after if he wants to be successful. And for that case, I'm going to give it to Dennis Bermudez. I think at first I was going to lean to Tejovan Edwards just because of Bermudez's bad luck, but just based off that style, I think Dennis Bermudez is going to be a little bit smaller, but Tejovan Edwards, let me start even saying his whole name, but Edwards relies heavily on his explosiveness and athleticism, and Bermudez being a smaller, explosive, athletic fighter is going to be faster than him. And then with that experience, he's going to have different things of him. He's going to have different edges of him. He changed his game in together better, his striking, his wrestling, and he's done it against higher level competition. I think it's going to be a little bit too much for Edwards. I think Edwards can rely on maybe turning it into a full-on wrestling match, maybe trying to use his size, maybe he can try and land a big shot. But other than that, I just think he's a little bit too green and he needs to round out his skill set a little bit more. And this is a big step up in competition for him because he's still a very green fighter who just coming in the UFC, hasn't got a win yet, and he's fighting a guy who has plenty of wins in the UFC and was basically in the top, almost breaking the top 5 at the 145 in the 145 pound division, and that's definitely not no weak division. So it's gonna be a little bit too much for him. I think he's fighting a similar stylistic fighter to him, who just has more experience, more skills, more technical, and all that stuff over him. I think the only thing Edward has over him is age and maybe a little bit of size, but that's not gonna be enough. I think Dennis Bermudez beats him in a decision type fashion, but a pretty clear, clean cut decision this time around, so the judges can't steal it from him. So in this fight, I got Dennis Bermudez via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the bantamweight division, John Lineker versus Corey Sandhagen. And this is an interesting style matchup. Corey Sandhagen's style is very Dominic Cruz inspired, or seems to look very Dominic Cruz inspired. And John Lineker was actually supposed to face Dominic Cruz at one point, but injuries and management and stuff like that, the fight never happened. So he's fighting a guy who's very similar to Cruz, or at least has a very Cruz kind of style. And if you were training to fight Dominick Cruz, you would probably bring in somebody like Corey Sandhagen to mimic Dominick Cruz. So it's a very interesting style matchup, a very interesting matchup just for those style reasons. But other than that, I think Lineker has a lot to lose or not much to gain. Sandhagen is a very tough prospect, a very promising prospect, and who could very well beat Lineker. But if Lineker beats him, he gains really nothing from beating Sandhagen. But if Sandhagen beats Lineker, he becomes a ranked bantamweight. So it's a lot on the line for Lineker, but not a lot to win for Lineker. I don't know why he took the fight, but I guess he's just that tough guy. He wants to fight, so he'll fight anybody. He's fighting Sandhagen, and that's why we are where we are with this matchup. So looking at this matchup, Corey Sandhagen, like I said, style is similar to Cruz. He trained with TJ Dillashaw for a period of time. He's about 5'11", fights on the outside. He fights well from the outside, comes in when he wants to, like Cruz does. Fights at the distance, comes in, then makes himself absent. Like he fights you when he wants to fight you. He fights on his own terms. He comes in, comes out, fights you on his own terms. Mixes in shots very well. Has high volume. Has a little bit more power than Cruz. Doesn't throw as many leg kicks, but I think he has he has a real good body shot. Maybe he doesn't end strikes with leg kicks, but kind of favors like when Cruz had that leg kick, he has a body shot. So they have their differences, but it's very similar. And I'm actually going to lean to Corey Sandhagen for that factor. I think, and also another factor why I'm leaning to Sandhagen, really more than his volume, more than his Cruz style. I think it's his heart and his youth. He showed that in his last fight against Yuri Alcantara, who probably definitely not as good as Lineker, but it's the fact that heart showed in such a young fighter and was in a position where many others would have tapped, and he should have tapped himself. He survived and just came back stronger. That just show you what type of person he is. And like with that length and that volume, that's already going to put him over Lineker in the battle for a decision. And Lineker's going to need a finish. Then with Corey Sandhagen's heart, he showed that he can battle through adversity and come through. And I think when Lineker puts him in bad spots, that's only going to make him stronger and allow him to just pick up the volume even more and really push Lineker out of the way of not even being able to get a decision victory, but needing a knockout, but not being able to find that knockout. And then Corey Sandhagen's volume and his pace is just going to be a little bit too much for Lineker, at least on the decision aspect of things. And that's going to favor him when it goes to the judges, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a tough fight, be a gritty fight. This is going to be one of those fights where it's going to be a shining performance for a prospect. He's going to come into the UFC. I mean, at least he's going to appear on the radar for a lot of people in the division after this fight, in my opinion. So in this fight, I got Corey Sandhagen via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the light heavyweight division, Alonzo Menifield versus Vinicius Moreira. So looking at this fight, you got Vinicius Moreira, who looks like a fish out of water on the feet when it comes to his striking, but looks like a fish in water when it comes to his grappling on the ground. So his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, his grappling, all that stuff, he looks good on the ground, but on the feet, looks pretty sloppy, looks pretty awkward, and pretty looks out of his element almost. Then you got Alonzo Menifield, who just looks like a green fighter, and he actually is. Like, when you first look at him, you might say he has the build for a wrestler. Maybe he wrestled at some high school, middle school, maybe a bit of college and stuff. But you see, like, he doesn't shoot many shots, or his approach doesn't look very wrestler approached when you look at him fight. But he kind of gets things done on the feet, powerful, athletic. Then you look into him and you see that he never really did much sports at all. He did sports, kind of came in them late, did a high school, football, college, then some Canadian Football League, arena football. And then he kind of got into jiu-jitsu and then came into MMA. So he doesn't have a wrestling background. That's why it looks that way. His approach doesn't look like a wrestler's approach because he's not a wrestler. His striking approach his striking doesn't look as clean because he doesn't have a real striking background. And also he's only about 5 years or less into MMA anyway. He just kind of got into it and he's been having success. So he's a big athletic fighter, has the power, but he's still a very green fighter. His background, not wrestling, not striking, but green. He's a green fighter. You could say kind of football, but he has athleticism and the power. I think he's definitely going to keep improving and he's going to be a promising prospect, but definitely a lot of improvement to do. But against Vinicius Moreira, I think it's going to favor him in a way because he still has, even though he doesn't have a wrestling background, I guess he still has good hips from, he's probably naturally been athletic. Then plus playing football, linebacker, kind of controlling other big dudes and trying to, just shift the momentum and fighting up top. That all favors him or at least gave him those good hips that he has. And he's shown to have good takedown defense. And Vinicius Moreira doesn't have the best takedown offense, so he should be able to hold it on the feet. And I think on the feet, even though his striking isn't the cleanest, it's still much cleaner than Vinicius Moreira, and his power and his athleticism is going to favor him in this fight. So I think Alonzo Menifield is able to keep it on the feet and then is able to turn Vinicius Moreira's lights off. Now I think he'll get his stop done in the first round, so I got Alonzo Menifield via first round TKO. Now on to our co-prelim headliner we have in the women's flyweight division, Joanne Calderwood versus Ariana Lipski. So Lipski's looking like a very good prospect. Same height as Calderwood, I believe, about 5'6". She's 9 years younger than Calderwood. She has submission ability, striking ability. She can finish you on the feet, all the grounds. A very well-rounded fighter. Then you got Joanne Calderwood, who's looking the best maybe the best she's ever looked at now that she's at flyweight. At 115, she looked good at times, but then the weight cut became too much. Now the flyweight division's here, and I think she's found her, her natural weight class or her best fitting weight class at 125, not having to cut too much weight, being able to be at a good size, and then now all her skills are there without being drained. And her last performance showed it. She was able to finish another good prospect, and I think that's going to be about the case in this fight. I don't think she's going to finish Lipski, who's kind of a little bit similar to her in a way, but I think she has the more tools, and she's just peaking right now, in my opinion. Like, she's finding herself, and she's at the right weight class. Her skills come together, so she's in the right place for herself right now at this moment. And I think that's going to be a little bit too much for Lipski. She's going to use Calderwood, has been in there with the better competition, has beat some of the better competition, and has that experience. I think she uses her length a little bit better. I think she just a little bit has an edge over, I think a good significant edge on the striking, and grappling a little bit even with Lipski. And then I think she's just going to be just that much of a better fighter and use that experience. And she's in her groove right now. So I'm just going to have to lean to Calderwood unless proven otherwise. So in this fight, I'm going to lean to Joanne Calderwood via decision. Tough fight, but Calderwood via decision. Now on to our prelim headliner we have in the lightweight division, Donald Cerrone versus Alexander Hernandez. So looking at this fight, you got Alexander Hernandez, who's a hot prospect in the UFC's lightweight division right now. Came in and knocked Beneil Dariush out in under a minute. And then his hype kind of died down a bit in his last performance over Olivier Aubin-Mercier. He had a bit of a back and forth fight with Olivier Aubin-Mercier. And Mercier certainly isn't an easy fighter or a bad fighter, but it certainly wasn't the performance that Hernandez had in his debut, knocking out Beneil Dariush in under a minute. And Beneil Dariush is a very tough out for anyone, including people in the top 5 in the lightweight division. And he stopped him in under a minute. So the performance certainly wasn't what his first fight was. And looking at the Mercier fight kind of exposed what type of style he truly is, or what type of fighter he truly is. It showed that his power really isn't all that. His striking really isn't all that. His grappling really isn't all that. But what he really is a grinder. He's strong and he'll outwork you. He's strong, young, and he'll outwork. That's what Hernandez is. He's not going to be some guy that's going to wow you with his striking or his takedowns or his grappling or his submissions. But what he will wow you with is his strength, and he'll outwork you. He'll work from bell to bell. He'll work the whole fight. And he'll just be in your face and making you have the fight. Now, Cerrone has done just about everything in the sport except win the big one. He's fought more fights. I mean, he's won more fights than anyone. He has more of a bonuses than anyone. He's fought all the best people. He's beaten some of the best people. He just never won that big title. He was in the welterweight division just recently, for the past 3 years, he was in the welterweight division, or 2 or 3 years in the welterweight division. Had a good bit of success to start. Then he hit his wall in the welterweight division. Suffered a couple back-to-back losses. Then he beat Matt Medeiros. Then he lost to Edwards. Then he beat Mike Perry. Now he's coming back to the lightweight division off a win and maybe some renewed confidence coming back to the lightweight division. But how these fighters match up, I think Cerrone's just a better fighter all around. I think he's a much better striker, much better grappler, much better finishing ability, much on the feet and on the ground. Wrestling, I give Hernandez a wrestling advantage, but not much. And where Hernandez's advantage lies is that Cerrone not getting any younger. He struggled with the weight cut a little bit in the past, and now he's got used to the welterweight division. So he's older. The weight cut's not getting any easier. So how much will that weight cut take out of him trying to make the lightweight division now? Versus Hernandez, who is a workman. So if Hernandez could work Cerrone, I think he has a chance to win this fight, a good chance to win the fight. But other than that, skill-wise, I think Hernandez kind of reminds me of what's it called, Rick Story, maybe a young Rick Story. He has confidence and stuff, but his skills really aren't won't wow you, but he'll outwork you, he'll outfight you, he'll tough, he'll be in your face. I think Cerrone will be able to counter a fighter like that who come in and doesn't have the best entries, who just kind of works his way in off of just pure aggressiveness. I think Cerrone will be able to counter those aggressive entries with his counter strikes. Cerrone has always had great takedown defense, so he'll be able to defend those takedowns and really force Hernandez to work on the feet. I think Cerrone's a much better striker. Like I said, Hernandez's only advantage is really his work rate. I think Cerrone's going to come in, he's a game fighter. He has all these fights, so he's not going to come in there like somebody that's be out of his element, coming there and not knowing that that's where Hernandez's advantage will lie. Cerrone's going to come in there knowing that Hernandez needs a work rate, and I think Cerrone's going to counter his aggression. Instead of trying to outwork the younger fighter, he's going to counter that aggression like a veteran does, defend those takedowns, pick him apart on the feet, and probably find a submission. I think Hernandez will put on a good outing, will certainly have his moments. But I think when he's just starting to have his moments after getting picked apart for the first 2 rounds, I think he'll shoot in, maybe secure a submission. But by that time, Cerrone will time it, set up a submission, and submit Alexander Hernandez in the 3rd round. So in this fight, I got Donald Cerrone via 3rd round submission. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC Fight Night on ESPN, Cejudo versus Dillashaw. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.